The thing about space that's really weird is that I would expect there to be a horse in space. Actually, I would expect there to be exactly 2 horses in space, and I'd expect them to be 4 foot 8.5 inches wide. And the reason why is that NASA's solid rocket boosters were determined based on the width of 4 foot 8.5 inches wide, not coincidentally, but specifically because that is the width of those horses.
To understand this riddle, you'd have to go back to the Roman Empire. The Romans had the biggest land because they patrolled that land with the 2-horse Roman war chariot. The war chariot tore up the land, and if you were a farmer driving along your little wagon, you might break a wagon wheel, and if you were clever, you might measure the width of those ruts to realize they are 4 foot 8.5 inches wide, because that is the width of the Roman war chariot.
4 foot 8.5 inches wide. Now, when the first wagons come around, then they start being 4 foot 8.5 inches wide. When wagonways are getting towed by horses before there are trains, they make those railways what? 4 foot 8.5 inches wide. We can't even say it. It's so complicated. Europeans make trains on tracks that are 4 foot 8.5 inches wide. Random trivia, America is not connected to Europe by rail. You might not know that. But even so, the Americans start making their train tracks, and they make them 4 foot 8.5 inches wide. Difficult to say. We replace all the train tracks for higher speed trains, redo all the rail networks, make them 4 foot 8.5 inches wide. And when speed trains start going 200 miles an hour, many of them still travel on tracks that are 4 foot 8.5 inches wide. So when NASA's transporting the solid rocket boosters, they need to put them on tracks that are 4 foot 8.5 inches wide. And if you're going to fact check me, you'll be like, well, it overlaps the track a little bit, but guess what? It's still determined by the width of 2 horse butts. But what I want you to think of when you see that shuttle is that there are not 2 horses pulling it. So for some reason, that width we still stick to even in outer space. That width is stupid. It is. None of us can even say it in the room. We can't. And we're probably worse off for it. But the takeaway for all of us is that we are more dependent on our past decisions than we like to think. Because everybody wants innovation to happen, but not everyone breaks from the path. And today I'm going to walk you through 5 lessons, 5 best practices that I've learned about trying to get people to break from the path to truly be innovative. So let's kick it off with the subtlety of disruptive ideas. So many big breakthroughs, but so often difficult for us to see. Back in the days of the Romans, they had that giant empire, sure, but when the Orban Cannon Company came and said, hey, we want to make cannons that are 10 times bigger than you've ever had, they thought about it. They're at the Roman party. They're like, we're okay. So they reject them. And the Ottomans say, we'll do this cannon. And then they point that gigantic cannon that can lob a 1-ton cannonball a mile at the Roman walls of Constantinople for 53 days and 53 nights. That collapses the walls, the Roman Empire falls, and we enter the Dark Ages. Even the Roman Empire can fall. Thomas Edison goes to England. He's excited. It's going to be great. You guys will have light. But the Britons, they don't have light because they rejected him. But what I find really cool, if you really research, you can find the rejected idea. I went one step further to find the rejection and the insult. Because back then, they didn't just reject him. They reject him and insult him. So for Thomas Edison, they told him, your idea is unworthy of the attention of practical men. Maybe if they had the ladies, they would have seen the light. Am I right, ladies? There we go. That's a good balanced crowd. Then later on, Alexander Graham Bell, pretty excited. He got that phone. He goes to Western Union, and he tries to sell them the phone patent for $100,000, but they reject him and insult him, right. They tell him, that's idiotic. Why would any person want to use this ungainly and unsightly device? Walt Disney, rejected by the Kansas City Star. They told him he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. Walt Disney. Okay. So this guy named Ferruccio. Ferruccio is like top tractor mechanic of his day. He can take an army tractor or something that was an army device from World War II, remake it and make you an awesome tractor. Pretty soon he starts making his own tractors. He's reasonably successful and he likes machines, so he buys himself a Ferrari. He is so excited about the Ferrari, he goes to the Ferrari Racing Club, he goes to the Ferrari Fan Club, he goes to meet Enzo, and one day when he's talking to Enzo, he goes, hey, by the way, I'm a tractor mechanic, and I actually know how to make your clutch better because it doesn't stick. And Enzo rejects him and and insults them. He tells them, you may be able to drive a tractor, but you can't even handle a Ferrari properly. You stick to making tractors, and I'll make the cars. And that made Ferruccio a little bit upset. I only left one part of the story out, which is that his last name's Lamborghini. And to this day, he still does make tractors, but some of them look like this. Kodak invented digital photography. Forget that guy. Xerox invented the personal computer. Boring. Smith Corning invented the laptop word processor, grammar checker, spell checker, so much more. HP was pitched by their employee, Steve Wozniak, 3 times. Please let me make a computer. Go back to your desk. Atari could have owned Apple. 33% stake for $50,000. That would have paid off okay. EDS could have owned Microsoft, Excite could have owned Google, MySpace could have owned Facebook, Yahoo could have owned Facebook, Britannica could have been Encarta, Encarta could have been Wikipedia, Blockbuster could have owned Netflix, but they didn't. 3 chances to buy it for $50 million. But then we wouldn't have my favorite Twitter account. You should follow it. It's called The Last Blockbuster, and it's pretty good. If you plan on coming in today, just tweet me, and I'll run over and open the store. Sometimes we get excited when cars pull into our lot, but then it turns out to be they're just divorced parents passing along their children. A lot of people don't know this, but we own a large portion of Netflix. Just kidding, our electricity just got turned off. Everyone in this room could have had Amazon stock and made millions from it. 150,000% return where you could purchase it any time, tends to do that, but we didn't.
How do you view that phenomenon that Amazon today is worth more than Sears?
Investors are focused on the future. Amazon has growth potential that Sears doesn't.
A couple of geeks who sketched out some software that could destroy Sears Roebuck.
That's the beauty of technology.
Opportunity, it actually almost always starts off subtle and awkward, just like Jeff Bezos. 1998, I sell books. 2017. It actually just gets better, to be honest with you, because I want to show you something. It's like, I'm Jeff Bezos. I'm Jeff Bezos. And yeah, I still wear a name tag, because I'm Jeff Bezos. New ideas are subtle and successful people. Successful people are the ones that actually miss out. Each of these companies were overlooked not by randoms, they were overlooked by the most successful icons of their time.